Welcome to another episode, Pound for Pound Boxing Report, episode um 280, episode 281. It's 280, excuse me. Could be 281. 280, excuse me. Um, I am your host, Michael. Um, Joining me this week, Gail from Communities Digital News, Daniel from the Inscriber. What's going on, lady and gent?
Evening all, evening all.
Yep.
For those who are new, Pound for Pound for Pound Box Report, live YouTube show, podcast, and blog discussing all things boxing. The motto is when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When boxing is bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it concerns the sweet science, we will talk about it. Um, for If you want to find out all information regarding Pound for Pound Boxing Report, the blog page is the best place to go to. The blog page, excuse me, is the place to go to, p4pboxingreport.wordpress.com. That's the link. Check the top right of the blog page. You will find links to where to find us all over social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Also links to where to find us on all platforms that carry podcasts. Links to where you can donate. We got a Cash Me and PayPal donation links there. And last but certainly not least, link to my private online fitness page. I am an online coach for beachbody.com. Let's Build Together challenge is coming in March. If you're interested in any of the my online group challenges, programs like P90X, the new program 6 Weeks of the Work, which is going to come out in April, PIO, or any of the products like Shakeology or any of the equipment, please check out my online coaching link. Again, I'm an online coach for beachbody.com. If you're interested, hit me up there or hit me up on Twitter. I'll give you how to reach me on Twitter at the end of this show. Shout out to Olaf Mighty. We're going to talk about Gary Russell to begin the show, starting with you, Gail. Recapping the fights that took place this weekend. Going to focus on 3 fights mainly. It was really a light weekend. In Allentown, Pennsylvania, Gary Russell Jr., WBC featherweight champion, defended against the mandatory contender King Tug Nyambayar. Very good fight, Gail. And maybe it's just me, but I personally thought I'll say beforehand, last week we had Russell on a bit of an upset alert because we thought highly of King Tug. But Russell, in my estimation, put down one of the best performances of his career. I thought he stepped up his level and beating King Tug by a decision, unanimous decision. I thought it was clear decision, in my opinion. 9-3 in rounds, maybe 9-3 in rounds. If you wanted to go 8-4 or 10-2, I have no problem with that. But the bottom line is Gary Russell did what he had to do to get the decision, use his speed, use his skill, use his intelligence to always stay a step ahead of King Tug. It wasn't that King Tug did anything necessarily wrong. It was just that Gary Russell all fight long mostly did just about everything right. Your reaction to what you saw?
This fight is the perfect example of why speed drives so much skill in boxing. If you have speed, you have defense, you have power punching because you need speed to deliver power. You've got footwork, and you just make everything that much harder for your opponent. And Nyambayar, credit the guy for stepping up, challenging himself, taking a risk. He got on a lot of people's radar that never heard of him before. And if you haven't watched a lot of prospects and Showbox and so forth, you would have never heard of him. But now a greater audience knows about him. He brings fans out. Who knew that there were that many Mongolians on the East Coast? I think they were all in the audience. And believe it or not, there's a large contingent of Mongolians in the Arlington, Virginia area. And with Russell Jr. coming from Washington, D.C., it made for actually a matchup that made a whole lot of sense. But Gary Russell is just far too skilled. Nyambayar spent the first half of the fight just trying to figure out the timing. What's amazing to me is that Russell Jr. can perform at that level when he's out of the ring the rest of the year, and has been every year for the last 4 years. He fights once and that's it. And he still maintains that level of quality. And I think to myself, if he was fighting even twice a year, perhaps 3 times a year, can we ask that? Think how skilled he'd be then. He's got to have at least a teeny little bit of ring rust, although he is a hardcore gym rat, and no doubt about it. Chances are he's probably in the gym today. And
go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's just amazing, to think that he might even improve just that little bit more if he was more active. Truly, though, a great performance. And so much for our spoiler alert. We're all wondering when that ring rust is going to show up, when the age is going to show up. Well, not this week.
Yeah, first of all, I mistakenly said this is episode 280 when in fact this is episode 281. For those who are watching us live on YouTube, I will fix that once the show is over. I'll go to you, Daniel. To Gail's point about the lack of ring rust, what it speaks to is that despite Russell fighting only once a year for the past 5 years, he tends to business in between fights. It says he stays sharp. He's constantly either training or sparring on a consistent basis. That's why he can get away with it. Plus his natural overall talent, he can get away with the lack of activity. Your thoughts on his performance over King Tug? To me, I watched the fight and I'm like, okay, given the current crop at 126 pounds, Russell is clearly the best in the world at featherweight.
That's the picture you come up with whenever he faces one of these things. Like, that's how we thought about it when the way he knocked out Highland a couple of years ago. So the potential is there. The way he fought is there. The speed is there. And the dedication is there, as you guys noted, by being a gym rat. I did feel bad for King Tug in the first half of the fight because speed is the one variable that you can't really prepare for. It doesn't matter if it's a contact sport, a combat sport like boxing, or something as simple as basketball or football. Speed is a variable you can't really counter unless you have some of that yourself. Unfortunately, King Tug didn't have enough of it to really counter Russell, and it made the fight look a lot easier than we even thought it was going to have. But then we're thinking about it in a way where it's supposed to be. It's supposed to show some level of ring rust, but you got to give up to Russell's dedication, game planning, and confidence to do what he's doing. I've been once a year, but that being said, it just makes you hunger that he just wants him to show up more. And we know, like, even though he said it on Twitter, he doesn't want to. He's tired of calling out Santa Cruz. Who did he call out once again?
Loma. Well, he called out. Yeah.
Yes, Santa Cruz, because that's the fight that you can realistically make. Loma, I can respect him calling out Loma from the simple aspect that it's a personal thing with him. It's personal with him. And maybe he's gotten enough skill now where it could be a decent fight. But it would have to mean him going up now to 135. Where that speed that he has may give way a little bit to the power of the opponent. So we don't have to worry about that aspect. But it was a good performance. Like, it is one of the better performances. It just makes you really want him to have more constant performances.
I named this particular episode "Enough Is Enough" because, and I'll go back to you, Gail. The question in the aftermath is, where does Russell go from here? Daniel alluded to Russell once again calling for a fight with Leo Santa Cruz. He also has mentioned in the lead up to this a fight with Tank Davis and a fight with a rematch with Lomachenko. The problem is, and it's a question I also posed to my brethren over at Three Kings Boxing on their podcast, on their weekly podcast. Russell is kind of a man on an island, if you will, an island, and he doesn't have any real pull, doesn't have any real power because Santa Cruz is so intertwined with Heyman. Heyman pays him really well, and because of that, he gives Santa Cruz is given a bit of a there's a security that there with Santa Cruz as a result. Santa Cruz can do whatever he want, fight whoever he want. If it means avoiding a guy here or there, that's fine. You look at Tank at 135 pounds. Number one, he's going to be facing some legal issues. Given that video that we saw during Super Bowl weekend, and Floyd is going to protect him for the time being, build up the brand. And yes, he could go to fight Lomachenko, but he may have to do some wranglings there. First of all, with Aram, and what is he really going to get from a monetary perspective, fighting a rematch with Loma? So I'm gonna ask you this question, Gail, and I'll ask Daniel the same question. If you were handling Gary Russell, looking at the landscape from 126 to 135 pounds, what direction would you take him?
Sorry for the misfire on the mic mute. First of all, yeah, the fight with Santa Cruz makes sense, but we all know that his protector Al Heyman is not going to let him get into much danger. The Tank Davis, as you say, I think for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is his legal issues, and making him, very much unavailable is just not practical. If he wants to move up and he's serious about moving up to 135, Devin Haney seems like a pretty cruel introduction to the lightweight division, but that's certainly possible. Haney is a young gun, technically doesn't have a belt because he was stripped after, shoulder surgery, but that shouldn't stop anything from happening. Does he wait to see the Lomachenko-Lopez winner? Maybe. The one fight I don't hear being discussed, and I'm not quite sure what would stop it other than determining the weight division, is a rematch with Jojo Diaz. Russell is the only loss on his record. He's now got a belt. He looked great, so he's a draw. There isn't necessarily a divide across the promotional barrier. It's not the easiest fight, but it's not an impossible one. Golden Boy is fairly flexible. So,
excuse the interruption, but is it set in stone that Diaz and Form are going to run it back immediately?
It is not. It is not. There is a rematch clause, but we all know sometimes a rematch isn't the next fight you take. And I think it would be a big mistake for Farmer to take that fight next. However you cook it up, Diaz isn't getting in the ring anytime soon, not with the cut that he sustained. They were talking about doing the rematch in April or May. That is not going to happen. But if Russell Jr., is willing to wait for it, he could get that later this summer, earlier in the fall. He needs some other kind of, tune-up or mandatory opponent. And, the sanctioning bodies will find him somebody. Is it a name we really want to see? Probably not. But he has gotten himself boxed into a corner like a lot of guys do, like Demetrius Andrade. He's the example now. He's the poster boy for this. Guys that are incredibly skilled, but they have other issues that make them less than desirable from a business standpoint, and the risk versus reward ratio is just so against them because they are a danger, but you don't get a big enough payday to risk losing a fight and perhaps losing a belt to take them on. If you win, that's great, but if you lose, you didn't get the paycheck to make it worth your while. So he's done a lot of that to himself by being inactive. Where he goes, I hope that they start having some serious discussions. He could really be, a tremendous star if he would just not let people forget about him in the year he takes off in between fights. That's got to stop now. The clock is ticking on him. He's 31 years old. He's aged really, really well, but he doesn't want to be trying to grind it out, getting opponents like a couple of the guys on the undercard, which I'm sure we'll discuss in a few minutes.
For those who are listening and watching us live, or maybe listen to us later via a podcast, you may ask, what about Josh Warrington? What about Shakur Stevenson? Well, those two will fight each other later on this summer, so they're tied up at the moment. Stevenson has a fight in March, and I think Warrington has a fight in around the same time. And assuming each guy wins, they're going to fight each other this summer. I think on Warrington's turf. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Daniel, but the same question I asked Gail, I'm going to pose to you now. If you were handling Gary Russell, if you was his manager, if you was his promoter, if you was his advisor, what direction will you take him following now that he's got this mandatory defense out of the way?
All right. If I'm his promoter, if I'm his manager, I would be in a mode where you're going to have to be at least for a year on a Tevin Farmer program. Where basically you're every 2-3 months, you're going to be in the ring. Because you've wasted too many years of your career just fighting once. So I would just look for opponents around the featherweight division. Keep yourself active. And then give yourself a try at 130. Don't go all the way to 135. Go to the 130. And that's probably the one where I would point out to take him to Jojo Diaz. Because now, we don't know if he'll still have a title by then, but then you'll be the one hunting then for the title. And by then, Diaz might have improved well enough where the fight could be more even. That's one way to push it. But then I would also probably ask him, how actually serious are you about this Loma business? Is it just something saying out of pride, or are you that serious about trying to chase Lomachenko? If he's dead serious about chasing Lomachenko, that's the fight. I would put myself ringside in the fight with him and Teofimo Lopez. And should Loma win, you should go into the ring. Pull a Tyson Fury. Have him make enough buzz, make enough noise to have Loma pretty much demand Aaron make the fight. That's mainly what depends what he wants to do. But for the time being, I would be pragmatic. I'll just put him in the Tevin Farm program. Like, find him any available top decent featherweight opponents, keep himself active, and then slowly build up to 130.
I think the bottom line here is that if Russell is serious, first and foremost, this dude has just got to fight. To your point, Daniel, he has to be active. And I see the chat room. Check yourselves. If you really are a troll, check yourself because I'm not afraid to let that block button activate. I'm just saying, be nice. That's all I'm gonna say. Be nice. Um, back to the topic. The bottom line, I think we all in agreement here that for Russell, first and foremost, fight. To Gail's point, he has the skill set, and if you heard him outside of the ring, he's good with the mic. He's quite articulate guy. He has potential to be a real name and to make real money. Uh, uh, because he's good with the words and he's good with his fist in the ring. He has a style, and if you saw the fight with King Tug, um, is he a puncher? No, but that doesn't mean he cannot. He doesn't make for entertaining fights. You don't have to be an all-out slugger. You don't have to be a brawler. You don't have to be a puncher to be entertaining. Because of his flashy speed, because he's willing to stand there in the pocket, he puts on a good show. The fight against King Tug was one-sided for many aspects, but still, it was a good show. It was a good performance. Uh, it would leave those unaware of him wanting to see him more, based on his fight against King Tug. But yeah, he needs to fight and he needs to get down to business. The talking is done. Um, be active, get your butt in the ring, make fans want to. He has to do his due diligence. He has to show some accountability in terms of giving folks like ourselves, giving folks on social media, giving the boxing fans, the boxing writers and whatnot, give them an incentive to push them, like to push him to the point where it's like, okay, you got this fighter out there, you got Lomachenko out there, he's the name guy. You got Tank out there, he's the name guy because of his association with Floyd. Russell has to give folks a reason to say, hey, you got this guy by the name of Russell out here. He's very, very good. How come he's not getting fights? Because he's fighting, because we keep seeing him, because he keeps performing and doing well, he deserves a big fight. But the problem is he doesn't do that because he's so inactive. Talk alone is not going to do it anymore. Your action must back up your words. And until his actions inside the ring on a consistent basis equal his mouth, he's going to continue to be in a rut, asking for a big fight, claiming he wants a big fight, but nothing happens. Read some of the comments here. Kenneth Supreme in the chat. Kenneth Supreme McGriff, thanks for watching the show. He says, what's popping? Russell Jr. is wasting his years on PBC. Selenkos in the chat says, Russell Jr. will forever be Lomachenko's son. At this point, it may look like that way. Kenneth Supreme McGriff also says Russell Jr. pissed the puppet master off. Who do you mean by puppet master, sir? Explain. Rodian Smith says, comment about Dave Allen. We may talk about that during the show. Grievous says in the chat, one fight a year is not enough. I agree. Big Stiff says Gary needs to move up in weight and push the issue. I agree with that also. The Hands History Vault says in the chat, Russell moving to lightweight, Leo ain't fighting him. You're probably right there because let's just say that Leo Santa Cruz, in my opinion, has a history of avoiding guys, be it at 122 and at 126, and he may do the same thing at 130. Shout out to Unrivaled because apparently Unrivaled sent a bunch of folks in here into the chat tonight. Shout out to Unrivaled Boxing. Good dude, good historian, by the way. If you want to listen to some comments or some real good talk about the history of the sport, Unrivaled Boxing Talk, he's one of the folks you need to go to. Shout out to him. Let's move on to some other topics here. We were loath to talk about this fight last week, Daniel. Matter of fact, we skipped it when I mentioned it in the chat. I guess we have to talk about this now. Guillermo Rigondeaux returning to the ring, dropping down to 118 pounds, beat fighter by the name of Solis for a belt at 118 pounds. 39 years old is Rigo, and once again he puts up a performance that he doesn't do himself justice, and people who constantly call him boring, mundane. He gave him a reason why he is so disliked in the sport. Yes, he won, but it wasn't most enthralling bout in the world. He didn't look the greatest in the world to me. He shows signs of real slippage, and the fact that he's calling out Naoya Inoue after the bout comes off as laughable. Your reaction to what you saw in the undercard?
I avoided this fight specifically because I was afraid of this. I was afraid that he was going to go back to what he usually does. And yeah, he did what he usually does. It is laughable in a bit. Unfortunately, after that type of performance, you're going to call out somebody like Inoue. Especially considering that Inoue has some business probably he needs to handle in Japan now, thanks to the sanctioning bodies. And there's not much to say. Like, okay, Rigo, you won, but you're no longer your old self. Like the perfect fighter for you would have fought is at featherweight because you let it pass by. And now you've reached a point where with Rigo, I'm just like, okay, you fought, that's nice. You won, that's nice. Still doesn't mean I want to see you challenge for top titles, and not especially when I have Inoue there. You want to prove to me that you're ready for the challenge? That you're ready to do it? Fight Luis Neri. Then you can start talking.
He don't want Neri at this point. At 18 or 22, he don't no. What say what you want about Luis Neri, and I read your comments in the chat. I'm going to respond to that. Kenneth, Duck, Saint Britt. I'll go to you, Gail. Neri's a bad matchup for him. If Solis could hurt Rigo throughout this fight with punches, and Solis has never been regarded as a big puncher. Neri's a tiger in there. He's a Bengal tiger in there. With his pressure and his power, no, he would destroy Rigo, in my opinion. That being said, your reaction to this fight, Rigo won, but yawn.
The fans really let Rigo and Solis have it, and rightfully so. You know, Rigo has the skill, and in the last few fights, including Saturday, shows these brief glimpses when he's willing to engage. You know, there's suddenly something to watch there. And he'd do himself a world of good, maybe even in a loss. He would just fight with a little more urgency. But, you know, he has a little flurry of action, and then he decides to just get back in the recliner and cruise. And he is not going to get top name opponents like that. Now, maybe he's calling out the big guns because he figures, you know, let me get one more decent payday and call it a career. You know, at 39, allegedly, how long is he going to be in? Who knows? In a way, that's just crazy stuff. But we're talking about it. So, you know, how crazy is he? Inoue is way too busy with Casemiro, and you know, there's every potential of a rematch with Donaire. So he has no business wasting his time with Rigo. Neri, yeah, Neri might crush him, but, you know, Neri has had a lot of his own issues, as we know. I don't think Neri would be able to make 118 and 122. You know, Rigo said after the fight that he could make 115. He made 118 with ease. Let's see how Roman Gonzalez looks. Maybe that's the fight to make. At what weight? Don't know. But he's got his fight coming up with Calify. If he gets through that, looks decent, that might be a possibility. Let's see what happens. Would I personally love it? Not particularly. But does it make sense? Yeah, it probably does.
See a comment in the chat here about the possibilities for Rigo, the proposition of him fighting Isaac Dogbay. The problem is that Dogbay can't make 122 anymore. He's moving up to 126 pounds. While as Gail just said, Rigo made 118 and made 118 quite easily. In fact, Rigo said he could move down to 115 pounds. I've heard a new Inoue. I think it was Kenneth who said Inoue versus Navarrete would be a good fight. Given the fact that Inoue is now being co-promoted, by Top Rank, and Navarrete is promoted by Top Rank, look for that fight to happen either late this year or probably more than likely first half of 2021. I could just see Aram setting that fight up down the line. Duck, I don't think Neri has a vulnerable chin. I think in a fight with Rigo would be the one with chin problems. I think Neri personally has a pretty decent beard, and he's the naturally bigger guy. And in the fight against Solis, Rigo didn't show the legs anymore. So how is he going to get away from Neri? Neri's going to be on him like bad breath, with heavy punches to the head and body. I just don't see it. I just don't see Rigo being able to compete with the Luis Neri. And you got to also keep in mind that Neri throws a lot of punches in there. And as you saw against Solis, Rigo won by doing a lot of pot shotting. You see Neri dropping. I think part of that Duck, the fact that he may have been stunned. And I put that in quotes, may, probably due to the fact that he struggled to get down to 118 pounds. He's going to be much stronger at 122 and up. So yeah, Unrivaled, he has a question here, a comment here. He says, I think Neri might be weak mentally. I think you can bully him. You could break him. The problem is, Unrivaled, Rigo's not going to be the one to bully him. Not Rigo, maybe another fighter. Maybe if Neri was to fight an Inoue at 22, or fight a Navarrete at 22, I could see that, but not no Rigo, not no Rigo. Big stiff idiot. Dabo got a chin from God. If his chin was from God, Navarrete wouldn't be able to bounce him all over the ring like he did in both fights. So it's good, but it ain't that good. I love the comments and I love the questions being popped off here in the chat. I think Unrivaled Boxing said a bunch of folks here as so yeah, I appreciate it. And if all the people in the chat, make sure to hit that like button, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Any last word here, Gail and Daniel, regarding Rigo in the fight against Solis, or are you just ready to move on?
Oh, we are more than ready to move on to the best fight of the night.
You got Kell Brook out there. I'll just leave it up to you, Gail. Which direction you want to go here in terms of fights you want to talk about next?
Well, it does bear mentioning that the opening fight of the undercard was, while not terribly high level as far as the display of skill, at least there was plenty of action, plenty of heart. All guys, gave their all, and you see in my avatar there, Jason Velez gave, was the gatekeeper, but just didn't have enough to stop his opponent. And now his name is, I'm having a brain lock. Young Panamanian who got by him, Abeledo. Good action fight, warmed up the crowd. Unfortunately, then they had to watch Rigo, and they were just ticked. The appetizer was spicy. The main event was, the co-main was bland, and the main event was a blowout. So there you are, folks. But yes, earlier in the day, we had a fight from Sheffield, England, the home of one Special K, the special one, Kell Brook. And I'll toss it back to you to introduce that, and we can chat about that for a bit.
I'll take it to Daniel, Kell Brook. On the comeback trail, he didn't fight at all in 2019. His last time we saw him in the ring, didn't look good. He won, but he beat Michael Zarafa, who went on to upset to have 2 fights with Jeff Horn. The first fight was a upset stoppage win. They fought again this past December 2019, and Horn, bloody behind on the cards, pulled a knockout out of nowhere to defeat Zarafa. Well, Kell Brook returned to the ring to fight Michael DeLuca, I believe his name was. 7th round stoppage win. I think he dropped him in round, I want to say number 3. Punished him throughout. The question is, 33 years old is Brook now. Fighting at 154, where I think he should stay. Is he quote unquote back?
Not yet. Not yet. I don't think it's a good win as far as like getting yourself bouncing back after a year. But you just step into a division that is completely and utterly stacked. And we kind of saw what happened to you when you face a welterweight with power and Spence. Now you're going guys that are more than likely stronger. So I don't know that aspect of it. And I also know how serious he's going to pay attention to it, because we know the fight that he wants. As much as we've already accepted the fate that we're never going to see it, we know the fight that he wants. And I don't know how much is going to be him fighting low-level or mid-level 154 pounders. Meanwhile, he's trying to get Amir Khan to get back into the ring. I think we can pretty much all agree that that's not going to happen. But it's a good win. And ultimately, though, I have to see more. I have to see more performances, because just one fight is not going to be enough for me to tell me I'm back. Maybe like a Tony Harrison or a Mel, and do good against them. Then we can talk about Kell Brook being back.
The same question I posed to you, Gail. I've read some comments in the chat. Ivan DC, he says the only advantage he sees for Brook at 154 is his counterpunching ability. Your thoughts on Brook and how he looked against DeLuca?
If you looked at Brook's skill set in isolation, considering how roughed up he's been over the last couple of years, he looked fine. He looked healthy. He looked good at 154. But I think it was a little bit of a boxing mirage. He went through the motions. He won, but he should have destroyed that opponent at that level. And the Brook that I saw ringside take apart Sean Porter, I haven't seen again in a long time, which is such a shame. That was a thrilling performance. And you do that in enemy territory, that's an impressive win. He's been chasing that fight ever since. That was 5 years ago. That's really hard for me to fathom. It was 5 years ago. So did he pass the first level in the game? Yes. But you know what? It's going to get a lot harder on the next level of the game. Let's see who he draws as an opponent, where he chooses to go, and we'll need to find out, is that as far back as he can get? Was there some ring rust? Was there some nervousness or apprehension? And that wouldn't be a big surprise. He has really been through hell. And I'd be a little worried too if I had my face busted up and had myself as battered around as Brook has. He's broken both sides of his face at this point. Truthfully, the wisdom of him being in there against anyone with power who could give him a shot to a very fragile face, that worries me a lot. I hope he doesn't absolutely have to fight for the money. He really needs to think carefully about what he wants to do. And as he goes up in weight, he's going to face guys with even more power. It's going to be a problem.
Comment here from Duck. I was going to talk in the YouTube chat. I was going to talk about this. But he mentioned Kid Galahad, who fought on the undercard of Brook DeLuca. Galahad fought an eliminator against Claudio Marrero. Stopped him in, I want to say, stopped him in 8. Marrero retired, I believe, at the end of 8 rounds. Galahad fought Josh Warrington June of last year. In my opinion, I thought he beat Warrington. This win basically earns him another shot against Warrington once he finally fights Shakur later on this year. For Daniel or Gail, if any of you saw the fight, your thoughts on Kid Galahad at this stage of his career?
Fortunately, I missed that card. I missed that fight, but with Kid Galahad or Galahad, I apologize if I mispronounce it. But like he did look good in that fight with Warrington. I'm not gonna forget that he did really look good against Warrington. And you earned your way back. I would probably say he's at a point of his career where he does need like a really, really good shot and a really, really great fight in order to come out of it, because he's unfortunately now stuck in the dregs of the area where you fight in the UK and it's a boxing hotbed, but at the same time, there's so much noise about other divisions that you're mainly lost in the shuffle. So you have to open your eyes elsewhere. More than likely want to try to open your eyes here in the US. So maybe not exactly go after Warrington again, even though you've earned a shot to do it. If Stevenson loses, why not go after Shakur Stevenson? Open yourself up to a brand new audience against a kid that is, let's face it, he's been fast-tracked to a title. So you're saying if Stevenson loses to Warrington? Yeah, loses to Warrington. Like, get yourself name out there, and it's a good redemption story for Shakur if, let's say, he loses close. Yeah, but he has nothing to offer Galahad in a loss. I mean, why would he risk it against somebody that sharp? He would want to go after the top prize, Warrington, if he wins. I'm just looking at it from the aspect of, like, get yourself out of that crowded field in the UK and put yourself in new ground. I agree. Now, here's what I think. If we're going to have a Stevenson-Warrington fight, and that's what Frank Warren and Top Rank have been talking about this, why not aim Galahad at the WBA title holder, Zhu Can, who's represented by Golden Boy? That's a possible foe, and there's a belt involved in that one. And Zhu Can is not as much of a threat. Galahad is sharp. He's smart. He can play a little dirty when he wants to. He's
He's pretty crafty, and
Ken has fought on DAZN in the past
absolutely.
and put
Well,
the money up. I don't see. I could see, and Khan would probably have no problem going to Sheffield, London, anywhere in Great Britain. So I didn't think of that, but yeah, that's a good.
yeah.
That's an excellent proposition there, Gil.
I just saw him fight in Indio at Fantasy Springs. The stands were crammed with Chinese fans. Now, given the coronavirus issue, I'm not sure anybody's real anxious to have a Chinese opponent, which is really a shame. As long as that can all be calmed down and travel issues can get back to normal, he's a draw. They'll follow him anywhere. They're sitting up there with drums and banners and going nuts. It was fantastic. If those fans will travel to Indio, they'll travel to England, they'll travel wherever. Put it in Madison Square Garden. Who doesn't love a fight on the East Coast? I think there's a lot to be said for a fight like that. And again, there's a title involved, and he's not quite as dangerous. He, to his credit, Zucan has become a very entertaining fighter. So I like that fight a lot. And with Warrington and Stevenson off here, you let the winner of a Galahad Zucan fight the winner of that fight. And you've actually got unification action going on, which I am always in favor
of. Briefly going back to Kell Brook for a second, St. Britt in the YouTube chat made this proposition. He said, make Brook versus Crawford. I'll go to you on this one, Daniel. Your thoughts on the possibility of a fight between Brook and Crawford? One, where would the fight be held at, 147 or 154? Two, could it be made?
I'll answer the second question first. Yes, because we have not seen any political barriers, any reluctance when it comes to the Zone fighters and ESPN Plus fighters getting them out to the ring. We don't see any political barriers in that aspect. The fight would have to be at welterweight. It would have to be. Because you have to show Bud Crawford to be a fighting champion within the division that is not merely fighting mandatory, so people that Top Rank can just get. And quite frankly, if that's an opponent that, if you make that fight, that's a fight that Crawford needs more than Brook would need it. Because Brook is former champion. Brook can say, I'm going to stay at 154 and be part of that loaded division. The problem is the bulk of that division is without Heyman. So it makes it very hard for him to find top-level opponents at 154. Suddenly, you can go back to what's that? Sorry, you can go back to welterweight. You have no real barrier making a fight, and you get to fight for a title against. Oh, by the way, remember we as fans, we do love to compare by proxy. For Crawford, if he looks good against Brook or even stops him more, he's going to come barking at Spence saying, hey, it took you 11 rounds to take him out. It took me less than that. So, yeah, there is a very, very incentive more for Crawford to make the fight. So there's a possibility for him to make it.
The chat is really popping off this evening. The hand history vault says, please no, Crawford needs Porter. Well, that fight has been proposed. Porter has said he wants to fight, but you heard nothing from Aram or Bud about that. So that's up in the air. I agree with you. That would be a natural matchup. Porter's down. Porter is really down. The question is Aram really down for a fight with him? Unrivaled says, hey, I see a reluctance for that fight in terms of Brook and Crawford. He says he sees a reluctance for that fight. Last year, Aram said that Brook doesn't matter. Duck said there will be no excuses that Brook will be drained. He's not interested. He wants to see Brook at 154. Uh, hit, Hand History Vault says the Brook is terrible at 147 and kills him to make the weight. Uh, Kenneth Supreme also says that Brook belongs at 154 pounds. Big Stiff Idiot says that Brook knows he'll get ironed out at 154, so he's willing to drain himself. Grievous says Brook hunting for another big payday before he retires. Hand History Vault says that Crawford says he doesn't want to fight Porter. Sad face emoji. So that would be a natural fight, given that all of the other names in terms of the welterweight division are across the street over at PBC. Porter is, as I said, Porter's already said, yeah, he's willing to fight him. Just send him the contract. You hadn't send Aaron send a contract, so I don't know the deal with that. Let's move on to some news here. Um, Move on to some news here. Big fight. Well, yeah, I'll say it. Big significant fight in the heavyweight division when it comes to the UK, as Daniel Dubois, Joe Joyce, both up and coming fighters. Dubois, the youngster, I think he's only 21, fighting Joe Joyce, who's ranked right now. Um, this fight has been rumored for a while. It was officially signed late last week. They're going to face off April 11th. Um, I think the fight is going to be aired here stateside in on ESPN. I'll go to you, Gail. Um, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. The fact that these two up and comers are fighting each other, I'm not mad at it. Your reaction?
I'm with you. I'm not mad at it. We've just discussed about a lot of fighters tonight in this edition of the podcast. Inactivity. I would rather guys get in the ring and fight somebody, that's fairly decent, that's at least got a chance, that's willing to challenge themselves, than sit around waiting for the perfect matchup. Case in point. So, right, I'm not mad at it. Get in, get it on. Let's see what happens. Um, I think Daniel Dubois is going to have his way with Joe Joyce, but Joe Joyce, does have a puncher's chance, and that's why we watch.
Someone's getting knocked out. Daniel, that's my prediction for this fight. Someone's getting knocked out. Um, I would lean towards Dubois in this fight, but Joe Joyce can punch. I'll give him that. And plus, he's a big guy. Um, Thoughts on the fact that this fight is getting made?
I'm actually surprised. I'm really, really surprised that Frank Warren is actually doing this, because you want to keep yourself, and you want to keep, like I said, when you're looking and when you're future proofing yourself, you want to keep all avenues realistically open for a Tyson Fury, should he beat Wilder in the rematch. And not to mention that you could have gone actually the safer route and have Joe Joyce go after the European title, who he has been mandated to fight for recently.
Interesting.
So,
Go ahead.
no,
Excuse me. Let me interrupt before you finish here. Interesting comments in the chat because they seem to differ from myself and Gail. Um, while St. Britt says that Joe Joyce will be stuck in mud, and as usual, when Dubois stops him at 5, um, Selenkos says that he's putting his money on Joe Joyce. He believes that Joyce will win. Unrivaled says that Joyce's stamina could be a huge issue if he can take Dubois late in the fight. He said he could swamp him. Radian Smith said that Joe Joyce has fought good men in the past. He says that because of the better level of competition, he feels that he will win. While Kenneth Supreme McGriff says that Joe Joyce fights in slow motion. and result will lose. Proceed, Daniel.
That's my big worry. That's one of the reasons why I'm surprised by it. Because you got to think about it when it comes to Joe Joyce. He is a late bloomer in the sport. He did come in very, very late into it as far as in the professional ranks. But he's still a somewhat viable commodity. So why would Frank Warren do it if not to actually test the mettle of Dubois? Because I've had, between those two, Dubois has been to me the far better prospect, more than youth and more than power. So this is a good way to really, really test Dubois. You have somebody that is ranked, there is a world beater. You don't have to go that far into it. And more importantly for Frank Warren, a heavyweight where you don't have to deal with Eddie in order to get the fight done. So I'm, like I said, part of me surprised by it, and I would really, really favor Dubois in this fight. Like, my problem with Joe Joyce has always been he fights at one speed, and Dubois has the youth and power in this side in this aspect.
Yeah, some more comments in the chat, and I've heard of this about Dubois that he's been hurt in sparring. Selenko says that Dubois got dropped in sparring by Filip Hrgović, a couple of other heavyweights, Serenko, Bakole. I asked the question for the folks in the chat, the level of interest. Reddy Smith says it's a high level of interest when it comes to hardcore fans. Unrivaled says the interest is solid, not AJ versus White level, but more people seem to be talking about it than people did about Groves to Gale. That's interesting. Say it was announced on the Good Morning in Britain UK Good Morning Britain on UK terrestrial TV. So that's notable right there. Such a prominent media outlet. Grievous says it's a good domestic fight. Reading some more comments. Yeah, Grievous said it's a good domestic fight. Couple more news bits. I'll go to you, Gail, because you mentioned this live. You mentioned this via Twitter DM. A fight that was announced earlier today by PBC. Details on that, please.
We did learn a little earlier today that cruiserweight Murat Gassiev will follow the likes of Alexander Usyk up to heavyweight, and he's going to make his heavyweight debut against wait for it, Jerry Forrest on the undercard of the Mikey Garcia.
Who?
Yeah, right. Who? Jerry Forrest. 2 R's. In Jerry and in Forrest. And yeah, I don't know who the hell he is either. So this is on the undercard of the Mikey Garcia Jesse Vargas fight in Frisco, Texas on February 29th, which is a DAZN fight in the US, a Sky Sports fight in the UK. Gassiev just signed Gassiev signed last year with Matchroom and said he was going to move up to heavyweight. So he's finally going to do it. He's had a shoulder injury, keeping him out of action for now almost 8 months, I believe it is. He was originally scheduled to fight Joey DeLuca, but now he is apparently all healed up, ready to get back in action. Forrest is a 26-3 opponent with 20 knockouts, so says his record, from Louisiana, and is 31 years old. So, a good tune-up fight for Gassiev. It will have been 600 days almost closing in real quick on 2 years since Garcia's had a fight. So yeah, he sort of rates a Jerry Forrest. I'm not, as we just said, I'm not horribly mad at that. I will also add that Israel Madrimov, who's 4-0 with 4 KOs, junior middleweight, is also been added to that card. He's yet another very talented Uzbekistani fighter, fights alongside MJ Akhmadaliev in the same stable in Indio, California. So another one to watch. Don't let that 4-0, 4 KO record fool you. This is a guy who's very, very dangerous. So this card is fleshing out rather nicely for February 29th.
One more news bit here. I didn't mention this in the docket, but I'm going to pose it to you, Daniel, before we move on to preview some fights here. We've just mentioned Joyce and Dubois. Within that discussion, other heavyweight prospects like Hrgovic and others have come. Hrgovic and others have come into play. Was mentioned in the chat. There's another pretty prominent young heavyweight by the name of Tony Yoka. We may have talked about him once before here on Pound for Pound Box Report. Yoka, 2016 super heavyweight Olympic gold medalist, coming back from a year suspension. There's rumors now that he's on the verge of signing a co-promotional deal with Top Rank. I mentioned Yoka because of all these young and up and coming heavyweights. He beat most of them during their amateur days. Your thoughts on the level of interest that Arum has in one Tony Yoka? Because if the rumors are true, once he's signed, he could possibly make his U.S. debut this summer.
I'm not really surprised by it. That 2016, like I said, gold medal finish, don't win a match, left many, many questions. And ultimately, like I said, like I mentioned, this whole situation, like we talked about with Dubois and Joyce, this is about future-proofing yourself right now for opponents for Tyson Fury to have. Because in the mindset, more than likely, that in this case Bob Arum has is, I have full confidence that Tyson Fury will beat Deontay Wilder in the rematch. And so we have to line up opponents with him because it looks like Anthony Joshua is going to be very, very busy with some mandatories for the next year. So making that fight does not really look possible until 2021. And so you have to line up as many opponents as you can. You have to keep Fury as active as you can, because say what you will, you can't leave that man inactive because he might blow up to be an offensive lineman once again, and two, he might be more interested in getting into a WWE ring than a boxing ring, the way things are looking. So it's mainly something to keep him busy, and Yoka is another hungry young challenger that you can come into it. He has to shake off. He does have to shake off that stench from the suspension. But then again, if Arum's willing to sign Big Baby, you might as well do it.
Yeah. Big Baby. It's going to be interesting what he does with Big Baby Miller, where he goes with Big Baby Miller, because the signing is a bit head scratching. We don't know when Big Baby is going to fight again. And yeah, if Fury wins the rematch, Could we see an eventual? Could we see a Fury big baby win, big baby fight, or is it all basically setups that we will see Fury Wilder 3? I personally think the latter, but yeah, Yoka. Uh, it's a good scoop. It's a good scoop. It's a good scoop. Um, Good looking prospect. The potential is there. Um, he hasn't been tested yet, but I think he can make waves in the heavyweight division going coming. I think he can has the potential to make waves in the heavyweight division. Get your words out right, Mike. Let's move on to start previewing some fights. Uh, Doubleheader taking place. I want to say Friday, Gail. I think you're going to be in attendance at this card, Golden Boy card, uh, on Valentine's Day, as in Anaheim on going to be televised on DAZN. Main event: Ryan Garcia fighting Francisco Fonseca on the undercard of that. Jorge Linares is going to fight, and should the two win, it looks like we may see those two fight later on this summer. What's been the talk in SoCal about Garcia, about Linares, and the potential of these two in getting it on?
It's a good fight for Southern California. It's the right fight for Garcia as far as a step-up test. You don't always know what version of Jorge Linares you're going to get, so we're going to need to see that Friday. But all is well again in the Golden Boy universe between Oscar and Ryan Garcia. They have kissed and made up. The fight's on Valentine's Day. Boxing's heartthrob is back.
What are the odds he's going to bring roses into the ring with him and throw them out to the ladies in the crowd?
Oh, I bet he will. Say what you will about Ryan Garcia. And Ryan Garcia takes tremendous amounts of criticism. He gets a lot of shit as far as a pretty boy, that he's more interested in his Instagram followers than he is in, honing his craft in the ring. He has managed along the way to answer all his critics. He's not lost. He had a spectacular knockout win on the Canelo Kovalev undercard, and things do all seem right with him and Golden Boy. And that's a good thing, because Oscar and Golden Boy need another star rising up through the ranks. Other than Canelo, they don't have a lot of other guys to look around at. So they have to hope to hell that Garcia can keep winning in a flashy manner, keep those followers growing. I think it was genius putting this fight on Valentine's Day. It's going to happen in Anaheim, California, literally steps across from the Angels Stadium in the Toyota Center where the Anaheim Ducks normally play. And all the Southern California kids can come out and watch and have a good time. It should be quite the party. Of course, everyone expects Garcia to win. It's only a matter of how he's going to do it. And if it's short and flashy and everybody feels the love, that's just great. The intrigue is whether Garcia or whether Linares wins. And then that is the next fight, which is another good step-up fight for Garcia. And the undercard features a lot of the local Southern California Golden Boy favorites and one crazy ass Blair the Flair Cobbs has been added to that undercard. And if you haven't seen Blair the Flair in action, do yourself a favor. It's just sheer entertainment. You never know what crazy stuff's going to happen. He's truly a wild card in every sense of the way. But for a Friday night card, should be a lot of fun.
Any quick word on this card, Daniel?
I like it. I do like the card. Like I said, Ryan Garcia, like I said, for all that we've talked to him about, he has answered the critics for the most part. He has the potential there. He just has to be tested in order to see if the full dedication is there. So this would be a good way to do it. And let's be blunt. Oscar's going to use Ryan as a means, as an emissary to at least halfway repair the relationship with Canelo.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I'm looking at the live comments, and there's a lot of the usual criticism of Garcia. He's trash. He's a pretty boy. This and that. Every time he's been pushed to the test, and everyone thinks he's going to fail, he's passed.
Well, he kind of is a pretty boy.
Oh,
he is kind of a pretty boy. But if he's a pretty boy that can fight, he can get away with it.
Yeah. I'll tell you what's going to get Garcia in trouble. He needs to stay away from the ladies. Let me tell you, he can have all the fun he wants on social media and pose with his fans and throw roses out of the ring, whatever the hell he's going to do on Friday. But he needs to worry a little less about the social life activities outside the ring. I mean, he's already got one baby mama he has to deal with. He just needs to sort of buckle down, Somebody needs to get that young man a condom sponsor. I'm just saying.
Whoa. Wait, Gail, are you saying that Ryan Garcia is going to be boxing's Dwight Howard?
Oh my God. I don't know about that. I mean, let's just hope he doesn't become boxing's Adrian Broner with 10 kids by 8 different women. No.
That's Evander.
Oh my God. Oh my Lord. Well, then he has to keep winning because he's going to have to keep paying child support. No. Let's hope that somebody has sat him down and read him the riot act over this. And I imagine the guy who gave him that talk was probably Bernard Hopkins. So hopefully he's straightened his act up.
Yep. Yeah. Because Bernard Hopkins is a man where if you're gonna sit down, he's gonna talk to you. You better listen.
Believe me, that Bernard earns every dollar he makes at Golden Boy and then some. Just keeping everybody in line. That's it.
Yeah, but one thing I'll ask, and I'll say this actually to the appeal that Ryan Garcia has. My cousin, who is a lot more of a UFC head than he is for boxing. Like, he knows who Canelo is, he knows who the heavyweights are, doesn't pay attention to much else. He started asking about Ryan Garcia.
That's a great example of why Ryan Garcia has value to Golden Boy and why they want to make sure that they're taking good care of him. He's looking good. He puts butts in the seats. He works very hard on the promotional side of things. He's going to do a public workout that fans can attend this week before the fight. He does do his part. And for all the laughing we do about the Instagram stuff and the followers, if you are serious about that and you are serious about maintaining a brand identity, that is a hell of a lot of work in your day. No joke. So they know they have, potential gold mine in a kid like Garcia. And he just has to keep winning and has to keep his nose and other things clean.
Exactly. Want to move on here. That card takes place this Friday in Anaheim. The following evening, I should say. Caleb Plant, who upset Uzcategui last year, January 2019, to win the IBF title at 168 pounds. He's making the second defense in his hometown of Nashville, Tennessee. And I'm going to have to be honest here. I'm going to ask some of my European folks in the chat to give me some insight on his opponent, a guy by the name of Feigenbutz, if I'm pronouncing his name right, Vincent Feigenbutz. I'm sorry, even the name's funny.
On now.
My apologies.
Come on, you need to learn some German there, man. Feigenbutz.
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 Thank you.
And we got Eldon here in the chat who says he's good. Really? Tell us more.
Okay,
rank number three.
Person in the chat. Are you German?
Am I?
No.
The person in the chat.
That person in the chat. I don't know how to say that. Is it like Ashbut Deutschland or something like that or something?
Unrivaled said that Feigenbutz can crack a bit, but he's terrible. I trust Unrivaled Boxing Talk. We've had discussions before on YouTube on other channels and whatnot. He knows his stuff.
Unrivaled.
I've only seen
panelists tonight.
I've only seen one fight of Feigenbutz. He fought fighting a guy by the name of Nunez. First of all, he looks like he has a mullet. What fighter in 2019, 2020 has a mullet?
Hell yeah. Hey, the 80s are back.
Ranked number 3 by the IBF. He can crack a bit based on his record, 31 wins, but 28 of those wins by knockout. Against Feigenbutz, however, he boxed largely in that fight. Plant has legs. He can really move, and he has good hand speed. He's the taller guy. He's the faster guy based on the video I've seen of both. Feigenbutz, he looks like he's a fighter who keeps himself in terrific shape. And while he may have the punching power on the record, the opposition, he hasn't beat too many guys of real note. Because of that, I question his level of competition. Based on those factors, I have to make Kell Plant the favorite here. If you know any more about Feigenbutz, Gail, Daniel, please tell. Please. For those in the chat, if you have some more comments on the German, please give them there in the chat. Based on what you've seen or what you know about him, Gail, Daniel, your thoughts on this fight?
I'm looking at some of the comments in the chat, and I'd say, guys, you're right on. This is a guy who's a pressure fighter with a little bit of power, but it can't. He can dish it out, but he can't take it. He just can't take it. L-Dog, is that L-Dog? Calls him a budget Triple G.
Oh,
brilliant!
Ouch!
Brilliant.
Oh, damn!
Exactly the kind of opponents that Triple G was getting fed during those years he was stuck in Germany. Absolutely right. And yeah, Plant's gonna just mow right through him. Feigenbutz will come in and he'll look decent, on the surface. He will move the right way, but once they start engaging, yeah, it's all done.
Yeah. Well, I'm taking a lot of people in the chat correctly. People said, L-Dog, you're drunk, go to bed. Jesus Christ. All right, but
outstanding when our listeners are actually trolling each other.
I mean, look, a lot of our listeners, a lot of our listeners and viewers on live YouTube, they're listening live. 2, 3, maybe 4 in the morning. So
yeah, look at I believe in Feigenbutz. Team Solon.
I'm not sure if we're delivering more entertainment than we're actually getting, Michael and Daniel. I kind of feel bad about not paying off as much as they're paying off for us tonight.
Oh man, no, but taking this into consideration, okay, we don't know a lot about Feigenbutz, but at the same time, we know Caleb Plant has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. He said it himself, like he doesn't like anybody in his division as people. So,
yeah, he's the equivalent of the Mad Rapper of the 168-pound division right now.
Yeah, and that's ultimately going to be what fuels him into it, because you're in that weird space in the division where there's not a lot of opponents, and a lot of the people that you could have fought have moved themselves up to like heavyweight, like Cerdo, and ultimately though he just had to keep fighting them, but we'll see what Feigenbutz is made of, because if Plant can execute the game plan that he did against Usitaki, who we knew who was very unorthodox in the way he fights, it should be a pretty decent night for him. And ultimately, let's say he's gonna start gunning down for the rest of the division.
And I think we're going to end the show on that note. Duck says that Uskatagi's win is looking a bit overrated after Lionel Thompson beat him. I read that comment about L Dog. He's drunk, go to bed. Grievous says that Plant is just fronting when he's giving the comment in response to the comment about him being mad at everybody.
Yeah.
He says Unrivaled said if Feigenbutz is very weak to the body, and he gets stuck in the mud throwing combos. Basically he said he has doesn't have great feet, great footwork, and very ponderous legs. In short, any more comments about this fight?
This is interesting. Gail, do you
wait, hold up, L Dog, really? I bet my mortgage on Feigenbutz. If I win, I will be able to pay it off and have some spare money. Really, L Dog?
Sir.
You going out on the limb?
No. L Dog, I'm sorry. Like the last time we saw somebody literally bet their mortgage on a fighter, he saw that mortgage disappear in about 40 seconds.
Yeah, I think you're going to be betting on the German version of Mike Lee, as somebody here said.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty good. Well, that'll give us something to
is he trolling? Is he trolling?
He's got to be trolling.
Our
listeners are not stupid people. They are not. If you found this show and you're listening, you ain't dumb. And nobody would have bet the mortgage on that one.
Yeah, okay. Unrivaled, I take it. It's like Lisa trolling.
Funny though. Funny. Love the entertainment.
Now,
Unrivaled said, go ahead.
No, I was about to say, just let's start taking them seriously. Well, actually, I was about to ask you, Gail, this. I know you're in San Diego, but do you get AM 570 in your area?
Out of Los Angeles?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting what they just put up on their Twitter.
Okay.
Let's see. Oscar De La Hoya issues a challenge to Floyd Mayweather.
Oh,
stop it.
No.
It's about the fifth time Oscar has done that in the last couple of years. Yeah.
No. It's not him challenging Floyd. You have your fighter, Tank Davis, and I have my fighter, Ryan Garcia. Let's make this fight happen. If Ryan wins on the 14th, let's stage a fight.
Yeah, no, I do see that. Oscar talks a lot. Oscar talks a lot of shit. They all do. Garcia has called out Tank leading up to this fight. Pardon me. He's called out Tank throughout the promotion for this fight. But it won't happen anytime soon. Linares is going to be his next opponent. Now, should he get by Linares in impressive fashion, then he'll have the juice and the confidence to really see if they can't make that fight. So we'll see it. But hey, this gives all the LA fans something to talk about. The person I would want to ask if they think Garcia is ready ain't Oscar. It's Eddie Reynoso. So we will ask Eddie after Friday what he thinks. And Eddie is a man of few words, and you can take what he says to the bank.
Question here from the chat before we start to close things down. Who is it? The Hand History Vault. He wants to know our thoughts on Charles Conwell. his return win. Um, for those who do not know, Conwell was the opponent in that ultimately tragic bout against Patrick Day. Um, he defeated Patrick Day by stoppage, KO stoppage in 10. Day unfortunately passed away. He died as a result of injuries suffered in that fight. Conwell returned um, this weekend, fought a guy by the name of Agaton, defeated him in 4 rounds. Quick word on the first fight for Conwell post that tragic bout against Patrick Day.
It takes a lot of mental fortitude to come back like that soon after something like that happens. Even if you're not the victim of it, you suffer mentally from it, knowing that you are not so much the cause, but you've helped contribute to a man's death, even if that's one of the risks in your profession. So, like, good on Conwell showing good mental fortitude and coming back. We have to see how this goes because things like this, they don't affect the people. They don't affect people in the short term. They can affect people in the long term. So we have to see how it goes moving forward. Hopefully, this isn't a situation where it's just a quick bounce back, and then when the next fight happens, that unfortunate like side effects of experiencing that don't creep up.
Quick word on that, Gail.
Yeah, hopefully not. This was handled really, really well by Lou DiBella. He put Conwell in this fight in the relative obscurity of Hammond, Indiana. You know, not a TV fight, not a big market, very quietly getting back in the ring. It was a 5th-round TKO victory. If you read Conwell's social media, he seemed he handled it really well. He was very glad for the opportunity. I mean, if you see there's some video of his entrance and little bit of video of the fight. He looked very good. He really did. But he did it without the pressure of the world's eyes on him. I mean, it was almost, it was truly under the radar until he started talking about it on his own social channels. So I would be surprised if DiBella gives him another fairly under the radar fight and then sees where he goes from there. But frequently, you know, when you're the guy that's dished out that kind of hurt against somebody, you know, when it's not your fault whatsoever, some guys are just never quite the same. They just lose their taste for the combat and they just never handle themselves very well in the ring again. The one that I always think about, at least in, you know, modern sort of recent history, is Mike Perez. It's just never really been the same since the Mago fight. So, and Mago, you know, managed to survive. So it's a rough thing to go through, and good for the young man for giving it another shot. You know, he may ultimately decide he's done with boxing, but he'll get to decide. And that's what it is really important, to let him get control over that decision back in his life again.
And I think we're going to end the show on that note. I want to really thank everybody who joined us live in the YouTube chat. St. Breath, Kenneth the Supreme McGriff, Hands History Vault, GV Boxing, who I mentioned, by the way, I didn't mention this during the show, that Clarissa Shields' brother got a 1-year sentence for his involvement with basically sucker punching James Ali Bashir. I didn't mention that, but yeah, he got he copped a plea deal where he could get up to a year in jail and up to $1,000 fine because he really got off light. Could have got a 10-year sentence. But yeah, that situation came down today. I wrote about it for Three Kings Boxing. I want to thank him for joining us. Unrivaled, L Dog, Duck, Grievous, Who else? A bunch of folks in the chat tonight.
The
I mentioned
Bronze
Kelly
Plumber,
Supreme.
the
Yes,
best name, best moniker of the show. The
Bronze Plumber. Oh
Plumber.
my God.
Bronze Plumber, yeah, him too.
Oh
So
man. Now I'm thinking about Golden Mario. Thank you very much.
He wins.
um,
He wins.
Ridian Smith, Big Stiff. You said the Bronze Plumber. I think I said Grievous earlier. Yeah, a bunch of folks in the chat. So yeah,
And
thanks everybody for joining us. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. I know a lot of you join us live from the UK, where it's late over there. I really
or
appreciate you joining us on the
early.
show. And make sure to share. Make sure to share. Make sure to leave a review on iTunes, on Spotify. We are on iTunes. We are on Spotify. For 5-star review will get read on a future episode. I'm going to go around the panel here. We start the show with ladies first. Going to end the show with ladies first. Gail from Communities Digital News, for those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk media, because you do teach media training on the side, and for those who want to talk small business, let the folks know where they can find you.
You can find me on the various interwebs at PR Pro San Diego. Yes, I am in the same zip code as Canelo and Ryan Garcia. What can I say? And aside to a couple of the chatters, Duck, yes, I do think Bostic was affected by what happened to Stevenson, and it showed in his fight against Beterbiev. And Ellerby might not like Ryan Garcia, but he likes Ryan's money. Ryan Garcia makes him the money, and that's all they're going to give a shit about. So there's every potential for a fight with Tank, with whoever Ryan realistically could get in the ring with. He's a money draw. Love him or hate him, butts in the seats. It'll be interesting to see how he draws this Friday night.
Absolutely, he's not the best prospect, in my opinion. He's not Ortiz. He's not Rashidi Ellis in terms of level of fighter, in my opinion. But to Gail's point, he's becoming a cash cow, and because of that, don't be surprised if an eventual fight between him and Tank Davis is made at lightweight for Tank's regular WBA world title, whatever the hell you want to call it. End of this year, if not early next year. So look for that fight to happen eventually. Too much money to be made on all sides. I'll go to you, Daniel. Daniel, for those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk the NBA, especially when it comes to the Miami Heat, who I think can make some serious damage in the Eastern Conference this year and can make a bit of a playoff run if they stay away from Milwaukee. Let the folks know where they can find you.
Yes. You can find me on Twitter at Rox99, RAWKUZ99. And like I said, I'll be in touch the night after, either right after Fury Wilder 2, or the day after, because me and German fans have decided to start it on that day. Good luck to them, because they're still moving to their new place. And like I said, and we're definitely going to talk some boxing and even like some little news, like I said, even something like this. Inoue and Tanaka formally ordered by the WBO.
I forgot to mention that. Damn it. And short, briefly here, for fans of the smaller weight fighters, let me mention that right quick. I forgot to mention that. That was a brain freeze on my end. Kosei Tanaka, who was elevated to super champion earlier this year. Last month, excuse me. I'll try to get this through as quickly as I can. He was elevated to super champion by the WBO last month. He decided to vacate the flyweight title. He was the former WBO world flyweight title. He vacated that belt, moving up to 115 pounds, where he petitioned the WBO to be named mandatory challenger for Ioka's belt. They granted him that wish. They have, I want to say, 20 days now to try to negotiate a bout. So that fight has been talked about for a while now, particularly in Japan. So look to see Kosei Tanaka and Kazuta Ioka, which will be a big fight in Japan. Look for it to happen later on this year. So yeah, I forgot to mention that. I'm glad you. I forgot to talk about it. I'm glad you mentioned it here, Daniel. Thank you for that. For those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk music, for those who want to talk, yeah, Bronze Plumber. I forgot. It's 281. I mentioned that earlier. I will change that once we go off air. I will change that. This is episode 281. In fact, for those who want to talk the sweet science, for those want to talk fitness, want to talk music, you know what it is. Brother JR on Twitter at Brother JR76. As I said to begin the show, if you want to find out all things regarding pound for pound boxing report, the blog page is the place to go to. Top right of the blog page is where you can find links to find us all over social media, where to find us on all platforms that carry podcasts. The donation links, we got a Cash Me and PayPal donation link, and also links to my online fitness coaching page. I am an online coach for Beachbody. If you're interested in programs like Beachbody, Insanity, not Beachbody, but P90X, Insanity, 6 weeks of the work, which you are, if you are a subscriber to Beachbody on Demand, that is the hot new program right now. It's set to drop for the masses in April. Or if you're interested in supplements like Shakeology, Energize, and whatnot, just hit me up on my online coaching page on Pound for Pound Boxing Report. On the next episode, we will do a recap of Platt and Feigenbutz. We will do a recap of the Garcia card, his fight against Fonseca, Linares on the card of that, and we will go heavy into previewing the rematch between uh, Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. That's going to be the focus in terms of previews next week on next week's episode. Emmanuel Navarrete is going to fight on that undercard. So is Charles Martin going to fight Gerald Washington, but our heavy focus will be on Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, the rematch of that. So again, I want to thank everybody who joined us on the live YouTube chat. For Gail from Communities Digital News, from Daniel the Inscriber. I am your host, Michael. This has been episode 281 of Pound for Pound Box Report. We will see you next time. Everyone have a good evening. Good night.
Good night, folks.